It's time to talk professional wrestling on Kayfabe Kommentary. My name is Erik Rupp, and today we are going to be talking about NWA Powerrr Episode 12. And Episode 12 of NWA Powerrr was outstanding. This was another great episode. And I'll tell you what, I'll give this one a 9 out of 10. It was another wildly entertaining episode showing why the NWA is the best promotion in pro wrestling today. And as this episode opened up, you had David Marquez with Tim Storm, the former World's Heavyweight Champion, and they were talking about his match in the main event of this episode. Tim Storm, for his part, really excited to get a chance to face Nick Aldis, a chance for payback, and he really wanted to kick Nick Aldis' ass for what happened the week before as Nick Aldis' team, Strictly Business, took Tim Storm apart. Now, that's something Tim Storm wasn't about to forgive, and he certainly wasn't going to forget. But Nick Aldis then comes out with Camille, and he proceeds to basically make a joke out of the whole situation. He's not taking the match seriously. He's mocking Tim Storm. He's getting into it with the fans. And he says that he entered the TV title tournament because there's nobody left to mow through. Now, think about that for a second. Nobody left in the NWA to mow through. Eli Drake? How about even Ken Anderson, two-time TNA Impact World's Heavyweight Champion? How about Marty Scurll, who's now showed up in the NWA? And he's made it clear that he wants that 10 pounds of gold. There are many guys that Nick Aldis has yet to face or has yet to prove himself against definitively. That fight he had against Marty Scurll, that match at the Crockett Cup, that was a brutal match, and it could have gone either way. So there's still plenty for him to prove. There's guys that he's either ducking and avoiding, or he's just got blinders on and doesn't get it. Because Eli Drake, that guy there is a future World's Heavyweight Champion. It just hasn't happened yet. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when with Eli Drake. Ken Anderson, he's a former World's Heavyweight Champion, and he's still got the ability to do it now. Marty Scurll, he's got the ability. So there are plenty of guys that Nick Aldis could go against that are legitimate contenders, but he's just either ducking them or he's just oblivious to it. Now, this confrontation between Tim Storm and Nick Aldis would resolve itself later in the show in the main event with some shocking events there, a shocking turn of events that really caught people by surprise. And we'll go over that later in the show. Now, the next thing that came up on the show was Aaron Shooter Stevens against Sal Rinauro in a non-title exhibition match. This was a submission match, so you didn't get the pin to win. You had to make the other guy submit. Aaron Stevens trying to prove himself as a martial arts specialist. And in this one, he easily beat Rinauro. Rinauro is young, he's inexperienced, and so it wasn't a big competition for Stevens. Now, Stevens won easily with the Mongrovian clutch, but at the end, when the match was over, he wouldn't let go, and he was continuing to injure Rinauro, which was something that Trevor Murdoch couldn't stand, and he came out to save Rinauro. Murdoch was pissed, and he confronted Stevens and basically challenged him to a match because he did not like the way that Stevens was abusing a young talent like that, and he really wanted to let Stevens have it. And so Stevens, to his credit, accepted the challenge, but then Murdoch just beat the hell out of Stevens and beat Stevens with a submission hold, and Stevens looked like the amateur there. Trevor Murdoch came in, took care of business, and that's why people love this guy in the NWA. Now, at this point, Eli Drake came out in his shoes of a champion, and he noted that for the second week in a row, he was not scheduled for a match. That's 2 weeks in a row on Powerrr that Eli Drake, possibly the #1 contender for the World's Heavyweight Championship, was not scheduled for a match on Powerrr. Now, that's just damned odd, because he is one of the best wrestlers in the world, one of the greatest personalities in the business, and he hasn't been scheduled for the last 2 weeks. He also noted, and probably rightly so, that Nick Aldis seems to be avoiding him. trying to keep him out of the spotlight. And you know what? I think he's right. I think Nick Aldis is ducking Eli Drake. Eli Drake is the natural contender for that championship, and Nick Aldis is ignoring him. And when one of the crowd members shouted out, "He's scared of you," Eli responded, "You're damn right he's scared of me." And even with that, Nick Aldis still won't respond. He won't answer back. Now, at this point, Eli kind of went dark, and he proceeded to badmouth Ken Anderson. And Ken Anderson's a great wrestler and a great personality as well. And the two of them have had two amazing matches, really hard-fought matches. Yeah, Eli Drake's won both of them, but either match could have gone either way, so that neither one was particularly decisive. Eli Drake's unprovoked verbal assault on Ken Anderson brought out Anderson's tag team partner Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana was defending Ken Anderson, and he was questioning Eli Drake and why he was doing it, what was motivating Eli Drake. And he pointed out that unlike Eli Drake, he had held that World's Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold, twice, and Eli Drake has never held that. And then at that point, after some verbal sparring back and forth, which was just wildly entertaining, it was great between the two of them, Ken Anderson comes out and he just wants to kick Eli Drake's ass. I mean, he's pissed. He's livid, and he has to be held back by Colt Cabana and some officials. And it's just, you can tell this thing is not over. That feud between the two of them is not over. We need another match. This is just too good. I want to see where this goes from here, because Ken Anderson is one heck of a wrestler, and he is great on the mic too. So I can't wait to see what he does when he gets one more chance at Eli Drake. Now, a couple things come to mind when you're talking about Ken Anderson and Colt Cabana. They're a great tag team. They work really well together. They obviously understand each other. Their styles mesh. They're not the same personality-wise, but they're complementary. So they really work well together both in and out of the ring. They should be contending for the tag team championship. And I just don't understand why we're not seeing more of them in the ring on Powerrr, because they really should be contending for that title. And the other thing, too, that comes to mind when it comes to Ken Anderson is you've got a guy here who is great on the mic. He can really speak well. He's really entertaining. He connects with the fans. And yet the NWA is kind of keeping him silent. They're not letting him talk on the mic. You know, when he did the intro at Into the Fire, he didn't do his own self-introduction. When you got Ken Anderson, you got to have him doing his whole shtick of hailing from Green Bay, Wisconsin, Mr. Anderson. Wait for it. Anderson. You got to have that. I'm sorry, when you've got Ken Anderson on your roster, when he's at your events, you have got to have Ken Anderson doing that. Why are they not doing that? You've got to take advantage of his strengths, and that is one of the things he does well, is talking and connecting with the crowd. Now, getting back to the actual wrestling, we had a match between Marty Bell and Tasha Steelz, two really, really good wrestlers with a lot of potential to become great. And this should have been a great match. It wasn't. It was good. It was solid. It was a good match, but it kind of seemed like Marty Bell maybe wasn't as focused as she should have been, and Tasha Steelz, being, basically new to the NWA, was kind of feeling her way out, trying to figure out Marty Bell. So this wasn't as great of a match as it could have been, and I gotta wonder, is Melina becoming a liability for Marty Bell? Because what I'm seeing is that Melina is constantly distracting Marty Bell. Melina has become a problem for Marty Bell, and Marty Bell isn't focused on the matches. She's focused on trying to please Melina, and that is really hurting her in the ring. So I tell you what, Marty Bell lost this match to Tasha Steelz partially because Melina was a distraction. So, and at the end, too, think about this. Melina ripped into Marty Bell, basically criticizing Marty Bell for losing the match, when really, if you look at it, Melina's kind of to blame for that, at least in part. Marty Bell is a very, very good wrestler, but she has been distracted by Melina lately, and this is something we're going to have to see how this plays out, because something tells me that this is going to come to a head later on, and we may end up seeing the two of them facing off in the ring. And then it's time for the much-anticipated main event. Tim Storm against Nick Aldis in the TV title tournament. This is going to be a great match. It's become a grudge match, especially after the way Nick Aldis' group just blindsided Tim Storm and took him apart in the ring when he wasn't prepared for a match. And what happened next, you just have to hear it to believe it. Nick Aldis came out wearing street clothes, not dressed for a match. And like I said, you've just got to hear this to believe it.
As you can see, I am not dressed to compete here tonight. I told you before, I entered into this TV title tournament for fun, and now you've taken all the fun out of it, Tim. This ain't fun for me anymore. And hey, that's the most PG chant I've ever heard in my life. The name of our group is Strictly Business. And as the CEO, I made the executive decision that it is not in the best interest of myself to risk getting injured in a match, in a TV title tournament match that unfortunately is just not important enough for the real world's champion.
I mean, if I didn't see that and hear that for myself, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have thought you were kidding me. I would have thought it was a joke. Nick Aldis of the Nick Aldis Crusade, the guy who would take on anybody, anywhere, at any time, is backing out of a match because he's afraid he might get hurt. What? Nick Aldis chickened out of a match with Tim Storm because he thought he might get hurt. You got to be kidding me. Where is the real Nick Aldis? This Nick Aldis, this guy he is a coward. He will not face Tim Storm because he's afraid of getting hurt. I'm sorry, man. That is not what Nick Aldis was all about. Nick Aldis has surrounded himself with thugs, and he is now ducking people. He's ducking Eli Drake. He's ducking Tim Storm. He's probably ducking Ken Anderson. Anybody who's a real threat, he's ducking. He doesn't want to fight Marty Scurll. He's afraid of getting into a match with him. So where's the real Nick Aldis? Since he was afraid to go into the match for himself, he sent Royce Isaacs in his place. Now, Royce Isaacs is a good wrestler. He is a great tag team wrestler, but as a singles wrestler, so far he's a disaster. But he got a few good shots into the match. A few. But this match was dominated by Tim Storm, who was clearly pissed off and wanted a piece of Nick Aldis and wasn't getting it. Now, Tim Storm looked better than ever. That was really one of the best matches I've seen from Tim Storm. He looked great. He got the win. He moves on in the tournament. But he didn't get his shot at Nick Aldis the way he should have. Nick Aldis has been a great champ. He has been a great World's Heavyweight Champion, the real World's Heavyweight Champion. And I mentioned that before, and it's true. But now he is ducking Tim Storm. He is ducking Eli Drake. He wants nothing to do with Marty Scurll. Where is the real Nick Aldis? Because he's not showing up lately on NWA Powerrr.